Brilliant.
Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name's Helen Webster and I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our fabulous guest today is the one and only Tony Schumacher, who we are so honoured to have on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for giving your time today. I know you're super busy.
No, just because I'm still sitting in the office doesn't mean I'm working. I just come in here to hide, to be honest with you. It gets me out of the way. And my office looks like a shed. I just want to tell everyone it isn't a shed. It just looks like a shed.
Oh. Sitting in the shed, yes, to get away from it all. Amazing. So we do a shout out to the kids, any young people who've been amazing this week. So San, have you got any young people you want to shout out to?
Yes, definitely. Artem, I've mentioned him a few times, I know, but the Ukrainian lad I've been doing some voluntary work with, teaching English, and his family started school yesterday at St Edward's. So, going in hardly, not speaking so much English at all. He's had a few lessons over the summer and that's it. Yeah, and going into a big, massive secondary school, straight into year 10 after what he's been through, really brave. So, and there's a few other Ukrainian children started school all over the city. So a massive shout out to all of those kids.
Definitely, 100%. Tony, have you got any little people, young people you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, wow. There's a couple of them mentioned them, but I probably should check with them really before I shout out to them. But they'll know who they are if they're watching. They're brilliant. And also my son, who was one last week. So I'll have to give him a shout out, even though he should be in bed by now, to be honest with you. But yeah, other than that, I just to say, it's a massive time going back to school. I always remember how, I hated going back to school. I was like the worst students in the world, So, but it's an exciting time to be young. So enjoy it. That's all.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So I've been lucky today. I've been into Claremont School, and so I want to shout out to all the kids who were there, who were hilarious. Some of the things they were saying was just hilarious. But they all engaged and they all joined in. And it is, it's tricky for them and the transition from being off for 6 weeks to then going back to school. And it's a SEND school, so, the transition for them is even greater than the transition for us. But I just love first day back at school pictures that all the parents have put up. Their hair's all like perfect, isn't it, in the little school uniforms. So big shout out to all the kids just going.
All the mums and dads watching the front door.
Clean,
yeah.
Hell, you're a bit crackly. Yeah, a little bit crackly there.
Right, I'm going to stick with my ears and see how they get on. It's because I've got my earphones. I don't know what's happened to them. So, success this week for you personally. Something that's happened that's been amazing. It can be anything. Dan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I've had a few, but my biggest success, I don't think I mentioned, was the jam. The big jam success I had. So this is, Tony's won a big award nationally. So this is just my perspective in life. So so my cousin gave me a load of damsons, like bags of them. I made loads of pots of jam, gave everyone. So then we made more. Then he goes, and everyone loved it. So I've had to give loads of jam out to everyone. So now I've got another batch to do, and then that's it. We're done. That's 3 big pressure cooks, 3 big jam pans full. That's it. So no more jam now for this year. I must have bought 12 bags of sugar at least.
It was very, very nice jam. It was very good jam.
I noticed I didn't get a jar, but anyway, yeah.
We'll drop one off for you, Tom.
Oh, thank you.
We'll drop it off for you, and you can take it home for Anna.
Very, very good jam it was. So have you had a success this week, Tony?
I think my big success is I've just finished a document that's been hanging over me for about 3 months, and I've literally finished it about an hour ago. That was it. I was on the phone to someone, so that I'm counting that as my success, that I've got a big mad job out the way. Unfortunately, there's another one waiting right behind it. But never mind. Count them as they come along.
Definitely. And it's great when you tick something off your list that's been on for a while.
Oh, do you know what? It's the best feeling in the world. I went out and made a coffee, especially. It's so exciting just to get it done. Like you said, it's been hanging over me for weeks, and it might be something good in the future, so it is quite exciting.
Brilliant. Fingers round all this sound.
No, yeah.
So my success is that we were able to take Lou, our big interactive playground, into Claremont today. and it was we just had a ball, and quite a lot of the students there struggled to engage in sort of the typical classroom, should we say. But they all come in, and then there was like 4 cool kids who were year 11 who were like, the lads coming in, and they were like, and then we had them up playing a maths game, throwing balls at the wall, and they just thought it was ace. So they were brilliant. They were really good. So massive shout out to Claremont School. Okay, so they're exciting that Tony's with us today. Tony, we play a quick game of this or that before we then hand the show over to you, and you'll talk, and then Sandra and I'll just butt in probably at the same time, because we tend to do that with each other, don't we? So are you going first, this or that, or am I, Sam?
Go on, you go first then.
Okay. It's National Read a Book Day today. So I'm going to use that as my theme for this first one. So if you were to read a book, would you read fact or fiction, Tony?
If I'm writing fiction, I read fact. And if I'm writing fact, I read fiction, because I'm worried about it getting in the way of what I'm thinking. So at the moment, I'm sorry for leaning away. I'm reading 2 things at the moment. I'm reading a book called The Volunteer, which is about a hero who went to Auschwitz during the war. I'm reading that. And I'm also reading a thing which will mean nothing to your kids, but it's called Camelot's End. And that's my fact one. And it's about an old president of America called Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing fiction. So I'm working on a fact thing and I'm working on a fiction thing. So when I'm doing one, I do the other. Because if I do the fiction one while I'm writing fiction, I'm always worried that I'll start copying it. So I stay clear of it, kind of thing, and I just focus on one thing. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
I always felt sorry for Jimmy Carter, because he did put all the groundwork in for the release of the hostages, and then Reagan went in and took the credit for it, didn't he?
Yeah. This is all about, I don't know if you remember, Teddy Kennedy, who was the youngest of the Kennedys, who was basically plotting behind Jimmy Carter all the way through, trying to get rid of him, even though he was supposed to be his mate. It's very good, very recommended.
Oh, brilliant. Ooh. So I know some people who can read 2 books at once. I can't do that.
I've got about 5 on the go, Hel.
So fine.
Yeah, no, I have to read the book, and I have to read it to the end, even if I hate it. I have to read it to the
end.
I
don't do that. That's one thing I don't do. I always think, like, I've only got so many hours in a week, like, and I always think if I'm not enjoying it, it's gone, kind of thing. I'll give it a good go, like I'll give it 100 pages or something like that. But I always think there's bound to be something else out there that I want to get into. You know what I mean?
I get bad FOMO in case it's going to turn dead good at the end.
Yeah, there is that as well.
I wish, come on, and then I read it and I think, stop doing that.
Yeah. I do that thing about it. I even do that when I'm writing. If I'm writing a book, because I've written 3 novels as well, and I've got 2 on my desktop that I just got bored with halfway through and knocked on the head. So we got like 50,000, 60,000 words that you just get fed up with, And there's Ronald there saying, I'm glad it's a book and not a Kindle. Ronald, I hate to tell you, mate, but I've got my Kindle as well on the far side of my office as well, so don't shout at me.
So this is my Uncle Ron. And my Uncle Ron,
sorry, Ron.
He reads all the time, and his favourite shop is Waterstones in Liverpool.
I bought that in Waterstones the other day, Brothers in Arms by James Holland. So I bought that in Waterstones the other day as well. Like, I haven't started that one yet, so I do love a book. I
love authors reading all the time. I love that. And so well read, fabulous. Yeah. Brilliant.
Go on, Sam, your question.
Okay, so my question is, writing a novel or a script for a televised drama or a Radio 4 play, for example?
Yeah. What do I like the most?
Yeah. From your point of view as a creator.
From a creator, forget the money. Just doing it for sheer fun. It's writing for the radio. Writing the plays for the radio.
I knew it was going to be that.
You can go anywhere with a radio play. You can do anything with it. The people who make them with you are incredible. They're like, they make like sound into anything in the world, you know, and anything that like I can be in a spaceship or I can be in a taxi cab. I can just write absolutely anything and they'll make it work. Whereas, like, if I go to the BBC and say I want to have a massive explosion and destroy like 15 Range Rovers, they'll go, there's no chance, that's not happening.
Yeah.
I go to Radio 4, they'll go, yeah, happy days, we'll just blow them all up, you know. So it's like, it's great. You can say I can go to Mars and it doesn't matter. So radio any day of the week.
They're mesmerising some of the players as well, aren't they? I'm working, I don't have time. But if you have time to hear it, sort of, you know, and you just think, and you can listen, and straight away you're captivated. You know, if I was flicking through a station, they are fantastic.
Really are, really are. The only problem I have with Radio 4, and I absolutely love them, and I've said this to them many times, is that there aren't enough voices like yours on it. That's the problem, is that there's too many people talking about, you know, middle class places, the Cotswolds and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I think Radio 4 should be for everyone, you know.
Well, this is why, and we'll speak about this in a minute when you take the floor. Really, one of the questions, that's what I want to talk to you about, and it's about our whole program. This whole show was created to show local people that local people do cool stuff. Yeah. You know, be it volunteering or achieving. We have all kinds of people on here who've done all kinds. So, you know, there'll be a lot of people interested in this when it goes on YouTube and in the podcast, etc., who are interested in doing what you're doing. So I'm hoping we're going to talk about that a bit later. Go on, Hel, you'll go.
Okay, so I'm going to take it down a level now. Okay. Chunky chips or skinny fries?
You see, again, I've got two answers here. You see, it's chunky chips if it's anything that I'm sitting down to eat properly. But it's skinny fries if you're out and about, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm starving, like, and I'm away from home and I just need something there and then, I'm all over the skinny fries. Because the thing about skinny fries is you can drag them out, can't you, for an hour? Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, if it's chunky chips and they give you 5, and I'm sitting somewhere and I've only got to go back to an empty hotel room, I'm saying, you know, because I've got to make these chips last me for 4 hours and it's just a nightmare. So, skinny fries if I'm not in Liverpool, and chunky chips if I am.
What about you, Sam?
Okay, well, I'm abandoning my question now over to that, and I'm going carrying on with the theme. Chips and gravy.
You haven't answered whether you wanted chunky chips or fries.
Oh, skinny fries, hands down. There's no choice. Really? Yeah, 100%.
Because you're Canadian.
Like with meat, and no, because they're proper French, aren't they? So I like that with meat or a little sauce or something. I love it. I know I like the petit pois as well. I like little peas and little chips. Yeah, I like that. So what I was going to say was, if we are having proper chippy chips, Tony, are we having them with gravy or curry sauce?
No, it's just gravy in it. Just gravy in it. You know, there's very little. Yeah.
When you are away from home, as happened to me in London, and I said, "Oh," and if you ask, and she went, "I'll give you a cup of curry sauce," but I refused to put it on the chips.
Really?
She just, because she was like, and handed me the sauce like that, and they didn't have gravy. They just thought, and the whole chippy went, and I went like that deliberately and made a big production of it and got off.
No, clean all day, every day. It's just that simple, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, we've got time for one more, Hel?
Yeah, we've got a quick one. Okay, so I'm going to do about, you sort of pinched me question a bit there, Sam, my first one. So, writing for TV or theatre? So, like a theatre show or a TV show? Tony?
Telly, I think, only because I haven't done theatre yet. I've written a play which I'm hoping to get on next year with a couple of the actors who worked with him responding. But telly, I'm saying this now again, because you can do so much with theatre. You know, you see some amazing theatre, like, and really adventurous and imaginative stuff, you know. But just bringing it down to the basics, telly goes the pay better. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. What about you, Stan, if you could write a play?
Yeah, amongst my published works, the ones we're doing. Yeah, no. Okay, if I could write for theatre or TV, I imagine, I could be wrong, Tony, and you could correct me on this, theatre would be the less challenging of the two, is that right?
I don't know really, because like if I write something for the telly, I don't have to look at people as the watching it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, if I've written something for the theatre, I'm like, say, if I've written something for the Everyman in Liverpool, like, I'm sitting 6 foot away from the people who are watching it, and that'd just be a nightmare, you know. And I've been in a couple of plays. I've done a little bit of bad acting over the years. I've been in a few plays, and it's terrifying. Whereas telly's just a job, you know what I mean? So I don't know, actually. It's a really hard one, that one. I think I'll go for telly again.
Yeah, I don't know, Helen, because I haven't created work for either.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm dead excited. I'm just ready to hear what Tony's got to talk.
Yeah, so I think we've done all this and that. We're going to cut it a little bit short because we're going to give Tony more time, I think. So, San, I'm going to let you introduce Tony and how you know him and how it all came that he's given time on our show.
Yeah, so obviously, as you know, I'm absolutely ecstatic. We've got Tony on the show today, and I've been trying to get him for some time, and we were very fortunate because obviously you were here, there, everywhere, up and down the country, having to speak at all kinds of events, as Anna was telling us. I was very, very fortunate to work some time ago, quite some time ago now, I couldn't tell you how many years ago, with Anna, who's Tony's partner, and you've got Duncan, the little baby. Now,
Duncan, yes, yeah.
And Anna teaches a foreign language. She taught English in Spain. Actually, her Spanish is excellent, and she also teaches a bit of Spanish. And she's a gorgeous, gorgeous, lovely human being, a wonderful teacher. And we just hit it off like a house on fire. We've always
brilliant writer, by the way, as well. She's a very, very, very talented writer. Go on, yeah.
That's typical of her. Not so much even know she did that because she's so humble as a person. And we've always kept in touch over the years, really. And she went to work at the uni for a bit. And then she went on, and now she's looking after Duncan. So I'm always trying to get her to come and do a bit of teaching for me in my business, you know. And I was going, we can fit it around you, Anna.
I'll sell it. I'll make sure to sell it when I get in.
She's been very good, and she's tracked you down for us. So we're absolutely delighted to have you on the show today, Tony, because you know, you're massively accomplished, but also I'm aware of part of the long journey you've been on. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons we wanted you on the show today is, if you don't mind, is to talk to us about your journey and how you came, where you come from, and how you've got to where you've got today. Because a lot of people think they write something, they send it off, it gets accepted. They don't realise you've got a lifetime of experience and the processes you've gone to become published and as successful and award winning. And then obviously at the end, we want this to lead to how the hell you got Martin Freeman to do it, okay? And that's it. So take it away, please. We will interrupt you because we'll be going there and we'll have loads of questions.
Don't worry about it. Honestly, it's good. Yeah, it's great. How did I get started?
Yeah.
I mean, if you take it back to when I was a kid, we alluded to it before with school, the first day of school, you know. My mum used to tell a story, and I can remember this, but my mum used to tell a story, God help her, she's no longer with us now, but she used to tell a story about on the very, very, very first day of school that I went to St. Aloysius in Huyton, and my mum got me dressed and put my little uniform on, you know, and this was in the days before you took a photo with your front door, you know, so she just led me out, and I grabbed hold of the door knocker. We had a door knocker about like 3 foot off the floor, you know, you used to put your letters through. I grabbed hold of this door knocker, and I wouldn't let go of it. It was only 4.5, and I wouldn't let go of this door knocker. And I screamed for hours, didn't want to go to school, did not want to go to school, screaming, holding onto the door. And she was having to pull my fingers away from the door. And Mrs. Redhead, who lived next door, she stuck her head out for the commotion. And she said to me, "Oh, don't worry." She said, "He'll be all right tomorrow. Once he gets there, he'll love it." It went on for 2 months. Every single morning, I didn't want to go to school. I caused murder in the street. All the other mums, my poor mother was mortified. All the other mums every morning, like, go, "Oh, God help her," you know, and all this, like, and I caused murder. And I'm sad to say, I hated school all the way through, from the minute I joined till the minute I finished when I was 16. And I think it was down to I was not a natural learner. I couldn't get my head around learning stuff. So, like, you know, the only thing I did was read. That was the only thing. I read books. That was the only thing. But when it comes to maths or geography or history or countless other things, I just couldn't do it. I had no way to take information in. And to be honest with you, I've had a conversation with my accountant this afternoon. She's trying to explain why I owe that. You know, I've only paid it last week and I can't get my head around it. She's actually, the poor woman, right, is spent about 3 hours with me this afternoon trying to explain to me that. And she's wasting her time, and I keep telling you, wasting your time, because I'm not a person who can learn that stuff.
Yeah, you'll get billed for that, Tony. Just let them get on with it.
I know, but I ain't signing checks for stuff, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm questioning everything. But the point is that over those 16 years, because I wasn't a natural learner, I started to think I was thick. And when you start to think you're thick, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it did with me. I just become thick. I just thought I was thick, so I must be thick. And people would tell me I'm thick. I used to have teachers, very different time when I went to school, but teachers, they give you the dig and tell you you're thick, you know. And like, they go, well, I must be thick. And I left school with 2 O-levels, C in geography, which they give you just for finding the place.
Hey, I got a C in geography.
Everyone got a C in geography. Honestly, everyone got a C in geography. The caretaker had a C in geography. And I got an E in metalwork for making a poker for a fire. We didn't even have a fire. Do you know what I mean? But I got a C for making a poker. I've still got it as well. Not the poker, not the E in O level. But so I come away and thought it was really daft and just worked on the premise that, like, education wasn't for me. No qualifications, and that's it. That's who I am. And I ended up working for a roofing company, labouring for a roofing company. And the boss of that roofing company was a fella called Dave Cato. And it's this thing about where if the right person comes into your life at the right time, it can change everything. And Dave's the reason I'm sitting here. I still see him occasionally. I still, you know, we still go for a pint very occasionally. You know, he's 80 odd now, Dave. But and the thing that Dave did with me, for some reason, was he just saw that if it was the right thing, I'd be all right with it. The things for me, I'd be all right with it. And my thing was current affairs. He started asking me about current affairs and asking me to go away and learn stuff. And we didn't have the internet then. We barely had electricity. So I would go away and just read newspapers or read books and stuff on the back of Dave's questions. And, like, if I didn't get them right, he'd dig me as well. I basically spent my life getting punched in the arm. And you know, if I didn't bother learning it, he'd give me a crack, you know, and say, go away tomorrow and tell me about Nelson Mandela in the morning, or tell me about, you know, the European community as it was then. Go away and tell me about that. And it kind of stimulated my mind. And then when the time was right, he said to me, okay, go and travel. And I went away and I travelled, and I spent years travelling, you know. And that was where I think, although I didn't start writing straight away, I think that was the place where I started laying the foundations for what I do now, you know, listening to stories and telling stories and stuff like that, you know.
And where did you travel to?
Well, initially, around the Caribbean and America. I spent a while travelling around America on Greyhound buses with my best mate. We did that a few times, to be honest with you. We went to Canada for a while. And just doing, like, crappy jobs, you know, like working in labouring or farming or in bars. And then I come home and I met a girl I used to go with, and she said, why don't you go and work on the cruise ships? So I went away to work on the cruise ships. And I went out there, and that was where, I think the cruise ships was where I found my voice, because that gave me a bit of confidence, you know, meeting people from all around the world and living with people from all around the world, and brilliant people, you know. And then one day, the manageress at the shop, there used to be a fashion show on a Saturday, and when all the passengers would all get on, there'd be a fashion show. And they used to have all the dancers who'd model all these clothes and stuff, you know, and the expensive watching and all this. And they'd walk out and it'd be this auditorium and about 600-700 people in the back of the ship, you know. And they walk around to Vogue by Madonna forever. And I was like, and she had this idea, the manager Jean, come up with the idea of instead of just having them walk around, have someone tell people about the stuff that we were selling and stuff. She said to me, that's your job, like, you're going to have to do it. And I didn't want to do it. And she said, well, if you don't do it, I'll send you home. And I'm shy. I know, but it's true. Like, because to do all this, people think I'm not shy. But if we were in a room, I'd be in the corner, you know. But because of this, I think it's my job and I can do it, you know. So she said to me, you've got to do this thing. And I had to get up with a mic in front of like 700 people. And I wrote a little script, you know. Like, this is these frocks are from Givenchy, you know. And I started, and it was really like, that was what it was like. I was terrible. But then over time, I thought, this is just painful, you know. So I thought, I'll start trying to make the dancers laugh. And I started like putting little things in and trying to make it. And I got more confidence and I learned how to publicly speak, you know. Mm. That was part of this thing as well that I do now, you know. I learned that skill as well. So it's funny how it all come from Dave, really. Just a strange thing. I was one man, you know, changed my life completely.
He obviously saw something in you and saw you in intelligence.
To be honest with you, I think he's just bored, you know, and he got this wagon, you know, and thought, oh yeah, I'll do some experiments on him.
Get him to go and learn this tonight to research Nelson Mandela. Yeah, I definitely think travel broadens the mind, and I think you know, the human condition transcends borders, etc., social class, etc. And I think once you meet people, you know people, and you know so many, and that I think a lot of people from Merseyside historically did go to sea. And in my experience in the airlines, I worked with a lot of people from Liverpool down in London and that, and travel. You know, it's a great thing. But you know what? We always come home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll listen now. I'm 55 now, and going to Landwood, no, I get a cob on. Do you know what I mean? I'd never go anywhere again. No, but I think for me, you know, I always feel a bit bad about it when, like, I always think that young people feel we have to go away. You know, like if you don't want to, don't do it. You know, but like for me, I think it was the making of me. It definitely was.
But also, Tony, I'm a similar age to yourself, and there wasn't much work.
No, well, yeah, it's
the opportunities. Then the only way you could get on really was to go away, go up. You know, it was the way people who did well here, but they were very much in the minority. And you know, so
I was struggling. Like, I mean, like every time I come home, I go away for like 6, 8, 9 months or something like that, and then I come home, and I just end up working. Not somewhere terrible, because I always got something out of it, but I'd end up like driving a forklift or loading newspapers on wagons or taking ditches or whatever, you know. And they were all like, you know, what we would call terrible jobs, but actually in reality, I met brilliant people, you know, and I had like great times with people and stuff.
Well, I bet your work's giving you material, if you like, giving you things.
God, yeah. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely it has. But not so much like as in I'm copying the material, but I used to just love the people who I worked with, you know. I'm still mates with loads of them. Like when I worked at the tip, the council tip, you know, it was one of the best jobs I ever had. Forget like working in a beach bar on the Cayman Islands. It was like working at the tip and my goal was just fantastic because I was working with these 5 fellas who were just brilliant. Like funny, intelligent guys, you know, and it was a joy. I loved it.
Very much so, I can imagine. And so when did you first decide, right, I'm going to write something and I'm going to send it off, and I want it to be created into something or published? And what were the first things you did?
Well, I always wanted, when I was at school, when you go back to that time at school, the one thing that I did was reading, and the one thing I wanted to do was be a writer. And I used to love... There used to be like on Saturday afternoons, there was sports on BBC One, sports on ITV, which I love sport, by the way. But there was always films on BBC Two, because we only had like 3 channels when I was a kid. And I loved the films. I just loved the films. And so I was obsessed with that kind of thing. I loved, like, my treat was staying up on a Saturday night, you know, and watching like Clint Eastwood or something like that. I just loved it. And I wanted to write. But it goes back to that thing that I just thought I was thick, you know, so I couldn't have, well, that's gone. I'm never going to do that. But it was always there at the back of my head. I'd like to do that. You know. And then the long story short is I ended up driving a taxi, and we'll backtrack here and there, like, but I ended up driving a taxi for a living after being homeless for a while and a nervous breakdown. And one night a lady got in my cab called Angie Salmons, and Angie was an editor of an online magazine. And I got chatting to Angie, and I said to her, what do you do for a living? You know, it was like 2 a.m, she'd been out somewhere, like I'm driving back. And I said, oh, what do you do for a living? You know, and she said, oh, I edit a magazine. And I said, oh, I'm a writer. And I don't know why I said it. Because I hadn't written anything since I was about 15. I thought, what did he, where is that? What did he say that for? And she said, oh, what do you write about? And I just started, I don't know even now, I can't get around it, but I just said to her, I write stuff that happens in the taxi. And she said, oh my God, that sounds brilliant. Like, what kind? I said, oh, just people get in, you know, and they tell me stories, or they just write stuff. And she said, oh, send me some in the morning. And I went, yeah, I will do, defo, yeah. And I had nothing. I had just nothing at all. It was 2:30 a.m. She gave me a business card. She got out the cab and she walked away. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So we drove around for about 2 hours, 3 hours, thinking, what am I going to write about? Just praying that someone interesting got in the back of the cab. But nobody interesting got in. It was awful. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I ended up by Sefton Park at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Sitting having, no, it was later than that. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, sitting having a sandwich as the sun was coming up. And I bought this butty from the garage, and it was terrible. And I'm eating it, and I'm thinking, what can I write about? What can I write about? What can I write about? And I saw a cat by a tree, sitting underneath the tree. You know, like the big trees in Sefton Park. It's all misty and beautiful morning, you know, in the spring. And this cat's sitting there, and it's got its eye on me butty, you know. You can probably smell this RJ tuna from like 300 feet. And I'm looking at the cat, and I'm thinking, I'll give him it because it's just terrible. Wow, I think it's something to write about. And as I'm looking at him, a blackbird dropped out the tree and just hit the cat on the head. And it started flapping all around the cat's head. And the cat's like, what's going on? What's going on? And then the blackbird just flew straight back up in the tree. And the cat just looked around and then looked at me. And I was like, what happened there? What was that? And I have no idea, you know, do you want some butty? And I'm just about to give him the sandwich. This blackbird comes down again and hits the cat on the head. And he flaps around again, it's scrabbling at the cat. I can see the cat fighting back. And then the bird flies back up into the tree. And the cat thinks, I'm doing one here, I've had enough of this, forget your sandwich, mate, I'm out of here. And it just walks off. And I thought, God, don't mind that, you know. So I sit back and carries on trying to think. And it hit me, it was like a train just slammed into me head. The story that I was going to write was about, I used to be a copper. I was a busy for like 11 years. I was a policeman in Merseyside. And I got a job one night. I worked up in Newtley Willows on my own, doing response 999 work. And I got a job one night in Newtley Willows. And it was an old guy who, it was the next door neighbours who dared screaming at this cottage in Newtley Willows, this like row of cottages. And like 3 a.m, so I pulled up at these cottages, and this old fella opens the door, and I'm standing there in the freezing cold, and I say, somebody's reported screaming. And the old guy goes, no, there's nothing here, there's nothing going on. And I looked past him into the front room of the house, and there was a little old lady sitting with a tissue, dabbing her nose, and there was little bits of blood on the tissue. And I said, right, mate, you're locked up, you know. And I locked them up, and I took them to St. Helens Nick, and I lodged them in the Nick. And I went back to the house to get the statements off the old lady for battering her, you know. And I said to her, listen, you know, tell me what happened. And she said, it's my fault. And I said, oh, love, you know what? I've been doing this job for like 10 years. It's not your fault. I said, you think it's your fault because he's conditioned you to think it's your fault. It isn't it's never your fault when someone hits you. That's the one thing to do. It's never your fault. So listen, let's start with that in mind and tell me what happened tonight. No, lad, it's my fault. It isn't your fault. And we go back through this formula about 8 times. You know, I've been a Bobby for 10 years. Love, I know it's round and round, and I know it's my fault. No, it's round and round and round. And then at the end of it, she says to me, listen to me, she said, it's my fault. I've been battering him for 60 years. And tonight's the night he turned around and hit me back. Now, that was the bird hitting the cat. It was the reversal of what I was expecting. And that become the first thing that I'd wrote since I was 15 years old. And I sent it to Angie, who was editing this magazine, and she said, "This is incredible. I'll publish it. What else have you got?" And I had nothing. And I was like, brilliant.
Loads of got books.
Oh, I become a writer that night. That was the thing. I become a writer that night.
And fabulous.
And that led me to be sitting here doing this.
That amazing. You had in your taxi. I've had some really interesting conversations in taxis and things. A lot of very well-educated people who drive cabs, and they're interested in humans, aren't they?
You've always said, haven't we, that people should taxi drivers should write books or do podcasts or stories. The amount of people and the stories.
Don't encourage any taxi drivers to do it, right? And that's my job, all right. No, they should, because you're the client, you're listening, you're learning every single night, every single night. And some of them are studying law, some of them are studying whatever, and everyone has a stereotype about cab drivers, and it's seldom true. It's seldom.
Very much so, yeah.
So from your published into the magazine, how did you progress then into where you are now?
Well, I started writing this column for the magazine called The Rearview Mirror, and it was basically, the minute that I tuned into things, it becomes suddenly, it was practice, I suppose, in some ways, but it was like just developing your sight almost, The more you think about something, the more you see it. And I started seeing stories, and I couldn't stop thinking about, like, oh, that'll be good. Somebody'd say something, that'll be good. Or I'd see something, go, oh, there's a thing. And I used to have, like, piles and piles of notebooks. I still have them now. Piles and piles and piles and piles of notebooks. Knocking around, there's another one. Just full of stuff that I was just constantly taking down and writing down. And I started thinking about doing a book, like, about these stories. And I was toying with the idea, should I write a book, whatever, and I couldn't quite make enough money to pack in driving a cab, I was doing a little bit of stand-up comedy at the time as well, but I was trying to make it all work. And one night I come home, and it was not a terrible garage sandwich. If you're ever looking for a break in life, go to garage at 3 a.m. I come home this night, and I bought this. I'd had the worst night driving. It was just awful. I hadn't made any money whatsoever. No, not an interest that I got. It was just terrible night, like a Wednesday night. And I went home, and I used to leave the telly on for the dog. And he liked documentaries, and he's sitting on the couch watching, like, Discovery or Leisure or something like that. And there was a documentary on about the occupation of Jersey during the war, but I'd missed it. That was the mad thing. I'd missed this documentary, and I got in just as the credits started rolling. And I'm feeding the dog this terrible sandwich. And if it hadn't been a terrible sandwich, it would have just gone straight to bed. I would have ate it on the way home, but it was that bad. I thought, I'll give it to him, he'll eat anything. So I'm giving the dog the sandwich, and I'm watching the credits rolling on this documentary. And it was a famous photo they were using as the backdrop for the credits, which was about, they had this photo, it was a propaganda picture of an English bobby, or a Channel Island bobby, holding the door open for a German officer on a car. And as I'm giving the dog the sandwich, I thought to myself, look at him there doing that for them. The state of him doing that, Because although I hadn't been a bobby for like 5 years at this point, although I hadn't been a cop, I was proud to have been a copy, And I was thinking, oh, you're wearing that big daft hat and all that, and look what you're doing with the Nazis. Why are you doing that? And it was like, I was thinking, oh, it's terrible. But then, as I was thinking it, I was thinking to myself, actually, he probably said to me, if you don't do this, mate, what, we're going to take your kids out. We're going to do something to your kids, So we started thinking, oh, well, all right, fair enough. Yeah, he's probably doing it to stay alive or whatever. But then I thought, if he's going to hold that door open to stay alive, what other doors will he open to stay alive? Will he open a door to put Jews on a train to stay alive? Where's the line that you draw to say, I ain't doing that? And I couldn't decide where the line was for me. Like, I do it to protect my family, but would I do it to put the Jews on and say, well, hang on, you might kill my family if I don't do it? a real conundrum, because we like to say, oh no, I'd never do it. But when it's, your wife, your kids, your brothers, sisters, all of them have got to be on the train if you don't do it. Would you not do it, So I started, and I couldn't make up my mind whether it's what I do, So the next morning I woke up and I took the dog for a walk. I was walking along and I thought, you know what, there might be a short story in this. I'll write. I've never written that kind of thing. There might be like 20,000 word short story in this. And I started writing it and I finished the book. It ended up being about 90,000 words, this book. And about 2 months before that, I'd written an article for a police magazine about mental health. And it's the maddest thing was I finished the book, and about 3 days later, a Bobby who'd read my article sent me an email and said, I really enjoyed your article. It made me think about my situation. And I love your writing. Do you have anything else? And I said, well, no, like I just write these columns and all this kind of stuff. He said, oh, you should write a book. And I said, well, it's funny you say that because I've just finished the book. He said, well, that's funny you say that. He said, because I won a competition a couple of years ago that gave me access to an agent, a writing agent, a literary agent. He said, but I've never been able to finish a book. Do you want it? Do you want that prize?
Wow.
And I said, yeah, Like initially I said, oh, here we go. This is like shady and all this. And he said, well, look, I've built up a relationship with the agent. He said, I will email him and check. And if he's okay with it, you send him your book. So about a day later, I got this email off this agent, this guy, and I sent him the book. And then he emailed me back about 4 days later. And he said, I've still got the email. He said to me, is this your first book? You've got an amazing future ahead of you. And about 2 weeks after that, HarperCollins bought the book, and I've been a full-time writer since then. And
wow.
That's all right. It was just pure luck. It all just lined up for me. It's pure luck, And that was it. HarperCollins bought that, and I wrote 3 novels with that character in mind. And then to get to the telly, I wrote 3 novels. And I loved them, and they're great, and I loved them. They sold well in America because he was an American agent, the agent, so we sold them in the States more than in the UK, although they are available if anyone's daft enough. And I got an email off them, and I'd submitted the third one. He said, this is great, like, we'll have another one. We'll have another one of these, the John Ross books they're called. And I thought, I don't want to write another one. Like how daft am I, like, but I don't want to write another book in a series. I think it was Ian Rankin said, nobody ever said to you, your 24th book in the series is the best one, It's like you're just writing the same book over and over and over again. Yeah. So I thought, I don't want to do that. So I said to the publisher, do you mind if I take 6 months off and see if I can come up with something else? And they said, no, go ahead, do it. So I've come up with all different ideas for books. And before I submitted them, I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to write for telly. Why don't I ever go doing that? So I wrote a script, sent it to a production company. And about a week after I'd sent it to them, I got a phone call off Jimmy McGovern, who'd been in that production company. And Jimmy had said to the script editor, have you got anything for me to read? As he was walking out. And she said, funny enough, I have. She said, I've just printed this script off. And she gave him the script. And he read it on his way home and rang me and said, do you want to go for a pint? So lucky, honest to God. I shouldn't be here. Like, it's so lucky. So I went for a pint with Jimmy McGovern because you would. And Jimmy, we had a little gathering, listen, he said to me, I'll mentor you, He said, I've got a link with a production company in London and, come up with some ideas. So I went away with television series ideas. I went away for a couple of weeks and I come back with 3 ideas. And by this time, me and Jimmy been out for a pint about 3 times. And I come back with these ideas. And Jimmy's brilliant. Jimmy's genius, aside from being a genius, is that he can see a story straight away. And Jimmy said to me, he got these ideas in front of him and he went, right, that's your second show, that's your third show, and that's your fourth show. And he said, you are your first show. Go and write your story. And that's what I did. And that ended up being
the response. And it was your claim to fame. Things. I tweeted Alan Sugar about this. Sugar said he had to switch it off because there was no subtitles because his wife couldn't understand the Liverpool accent. And I was like that on Twitter straight away.
I know he was funny. It was funny how he tweeted it. You know, I don't think he's totally unaware of the furore it caused. Like, I don't think he's got a clue. You know, because he doesn't check it after he's tweeted it.
He knows because I've tweeted him, Tony.
Oh, right. Of course he does, and of course he did mention.
That's why he's gone quiet. He was like, "I'm not getting involved in it. I'm going quiet."
Same as
I think as well, though, if somebody like that tweets something about it, it'll just encourage more people to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the thing. That was the thing. You know, I mean, I was on. It blew up. It was mad because I can't remember what I tweeted back, but I tweeted something back to him, like, and it just went mad. All the papers picked up on it.
Yeah, and Martin was amazing.
Oh, he was incredible. He was more scout. I find it weird. I spoke to him on Monday night, and I find it weird. Not Monday night, Sunday night. I find it weird now when.
Look what Anna's. Anna's Tony's partner.
Anna's Tony's partner, yeah. And she doesn't. She never understands me. Talk about being misunderstood. No, I found it. I found it weird to talk to Martin now in his own accent. Because he's so Scouse when he's Scouse.
I found it weird because he was a hobbit.
Yeah, well, yeah, he had got massive feet. We never showed them. Never showed them. They're about 4 foot long, the pair of them, like canoes.
I thought he was amazing. And one of the things, controversially, really, you know, some people felt it showed Liverpool in a negative light, obviously.
Well, the Echo did. I don't think anyone else did, but the Liverpool Echo did, yeah.
But I suppose it was based on your experiences as a police officer, and we've got to acknowledge that.
Do you know what? When I was a cop, very early on in my career, a Bobby said to me, Colin Rouse, fantastic police officer, and Colin said to me, "You were never going to knock on someone's door and tell them you've won the lottery. It's just never going to happen. You're only ever going to deal with bad news. That's what you do. So if you're going to make a show about being a Bobby working nights in Liverpool, answering 999 calls, it's gonna be like that, you know. But one of the things I set out to do, and I was, you know, explicit when we were talking to the directors who all were totally into the whole idea, was let's not make it a Liverpool show. As in, let's not have pictures of the Liver buildings. Let's not see the cathedral, you know. Let's not see either cathedral. Let's not see the football grounds that we're driving past. Let's make it about a city with people in it. Because every show that's made in Liverpool, it's always got those things in it. You know, there's the ferry in the background. What do I care about the ferry? I want this could be set in Wigan for all I care. And it was just that people had Liverpool accents. That was all. So we set out to do that explicitly to show that this is universal, these problems, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure every city globally deals with a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. And
it was sad because the police officer, you were saying, Helen, before when we were chatting, the police officer did something to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of what you were saying before, how when you have the line and people are getting involved with your family and things, you know, how far do you go? And I think so when I watched it, I was like, you know, you didn't show any cool places in Liverpool. You only showed city places. But I've lived in lots of different. So I've lived in Sheffield City Centre, I've lived in Manchester City Centre, and I used to run pubs. So the characters who were in the show, now you've explained that the characters who were in the show, and I said the young lad who was the drug dealer's friend, he is just a classic lad. In Sheffield, he's a classic lad. In Manchester, you know, he's just, and I thought he played the part absolutely brilliant.
Oh, he's incredible, yeah. Incredible. Do you know, he's based on a lad who me and Anna know well, who every Christmas he turns up at ours and goes, "Do you want to buy any aftershave?" You know, he's like, and he knows I used to be a Bobby, you know, and it's like, what are you doing coming here selling me this aftershave? You know, I've got some brandy here. Do you want to buy the brandy? It's based on him. He's a trucker and driver just trying to get through life, you know. But he was just banging it hard. And that's the thing about, like, there's nobody's, it was a bit controversial. I thought the only controversy that bothered me was that the only good person in the show was a drug dealer, was Carl. He was the only one who had a good relationship with his kids, who had a good relationship with his wife, who knew what he wanted in life and was happy. You know, he's peddling misery. And that was what I wanted to see. It was like, he was just, you know, like, the idea is that it's grounded in the reality of people. Because people are more interested, you know. Don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars, like, but it's, you know, I'm more interested in, like, the reality of people, because people make you laugh every day of the week, whereas telly doesn't. People make you cry every day of the week, telly doesn't. It might do once in a while, but in the reality is that real people do that. And if you can capture that stuff, capture those moments and try and make them into television, that to me is the best thing about it. Like, I love it.
No, absolutely. And we were talking earlier about character in the human, and I mentioned the human condition. And that's why Shakespeare's stories can be taught in a modern way today, because the behaviour of those people in the works of Shakespeare is still the behaviour and culture of people today.
Yeah, absolutely.
If what you're writing about, Tony, has got, you know, you can transfer the characters, etc. It's got longevity, hasn't it? Your work's got longevity, which is everything, and that. So are you going to be?
I won't say that I'm more Shakin' Stevens than Shakespeare. I'll be honest with you. Like, but yeah.
So, one of the things you said initially, we haven't got much time, but there's just so much I wanted to ask you. We both do. One of the things you said was you were speaking to, you know, saying to Radio 4, we need more representatives from all walks of life, if you like, not just writing about the Cotswolds, you said. And how do we do that? How do we get a voice?
You've got to, you know what, you've got to, it's really difficult. I mean, you have people like Jimmy and I suppose me and Sally Wainwright and you have working class writers who are pushing for it, you know. And I do think, you know, for all his faults, Tim Davie, who's the new Director General, well, he's not new, he's been there for a year now, but Tim Davie's the new Director General at the BBC. He's into that, you know. I mean, he's a Dutch Potsory, you know, who, you know, who's a young conservative and all of that, but he does see the merit of those voices. And we have to, I'm not saying like that it should be like a Ken Loach film every, I don't want Ken Loach reading the news every night, but at the same time, I do think there should be an equal balance of voices and backgrounds, you know. But sorry to say, how you achieve that, I think you've just got to kick the doors in. You've got to kick the doors in.
It's by the masses as well, isn't it? It's lots of people standing up and saying, isn't it? So my Uncle Ron, who was listening before, he writes, he's still, like, you know, and he sends emails and things. So when he doesn't feel something's right, or, you know, a particular show's gone off the television, and he just puts pen to paper or he writes, and I would say most of the time he gets a response, you know, from people. So his voice is heard, you know, and you can't sit there and whinge and say like, oh, this isn't happening if you're not willing to do something about it. So I think if people do put pen to paper and, you know, do speak about it, then hopefully, you know, more people will be heard, won't they?
I'm expecting a letter off him now after tonight.
Oh yeah, he sends boss letters, all handwritten. His handwritten letters are amazing. He sends them through the post it.
But also, if we just had the same type of TV all the time, it was like, if you think of the 70s, the Terry and Junes, and those type of sort of bland shows, you know, The Good Life, which was a bit radical at the time because they had to go to the neighbour's garden, you know, all this banal stuff going on. And whereas, like, you talk about Jimmy McGovern, you remember his dramas for the rest of your life. You remember those shows. I remember watching the Responder. You can remember each episode, and you know they're hard.
Boys in the Black stuff, you know, it's where everybody you watch it once, you know it. Like there's a thing. Let's just think about Sally. We talk about what I read. I read books about the old days of television, right? And I'm that boring, honest to God. I don't confirm this. Like, I am so boring that I read these books. And one of the things that I've noticed is that after World War II, there was a massive influx of working class writers who sadly all male in them days, but it was all working class writers. And what happened was, like Galton and Simpson, Eric Sykes and all these guys, you know, Joe Orton, all these fellas. And what part of it was the people who were running the BBC had got to know them during the war because they led them during the war, and they realised they were intelligent people who had a voice and had stories to tell. So the minute that the war ended, they went, let's go and get all in. And I think what happened is that in the 80s, that got lost. I don't know why, I'm not saying let's have a war so everyone can have a go at writing, but I'm just saying there needs to be a way that we need to close the gap between the people commissioning and the people writing.
But when you mix people are exposed. That's why diversity is good, isn't it? Because you meet all, and you think, oh, that's really cool, and then everyone gets a chance, don't they?
I tell myself, whenever I have a meeting at the BBC or Channel 4 or Sky, I'm at Sky next week, whenever I have a meeting at Sky, I always tell myself it's a bonus because there's nobody like me being in that office for a month or two. And I know that the minute that I start talking, I'll be not just a droning, Notting Hill, oh, hi guys, yeah, I've written this thing about things, large wine glasses, guys, I've written this thing. Whereas I'll go in and I will smash the door in. In my head, I'm like, I will literally, when I walk out of here, you will be talking about that last hour. And I think that's what you've got to do. You've got to smash the door in, be it with your writing, you've just got to be that person.
And resilience.
Oh God, yeah, definitely, yeah. You've got to be prepared to have a load of posh people telling you you're rubbish.
Yeah.
But don't give in. Just do not give in. That's the only thing that can stop you. That is literally the only thing that can stop you. If there's one thing to take away from listening to me for 56 minutes, it is don't give in, because that's the only way you can fail.
Yeah. Brilliant. And I remember Anna saying, when he's writing, I was like, oh, and she was saying, I hope he gets published and blah, blah, blah. And look at you now.
No, it's amazing.
2 minutes to go.
So Mike's listening and he says, if you believe in what you're doing, eventually you'll win through. I admire your determination, Tony, and your level of luck. It's brilliantly interesting. And we've had loads of gorgeous comments from...
I know, I've seen them. I wish I could answer them all. They're brilliant. They've been some really nice ones. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so we're going to do a quick... No, it's amazing. We'll probably have to have you again after you've been published again. A quick shout out to the grown-ups. Any grown-ups who've done amazing things. Stan, any grown-ups?
Tony.
Yeah. I'm going to give a shout out to Des Flanagan, who's listening today, because he's just an ace human, and he gave me some really good news today, so I'm made up for that.
Oh, brilliant. He's fabulous.
Yeah, he is fab. And so Des is writing a book, and he's done theatre and stuff like that, so I know that he's put this as a great listener, and I know he'll be super interested in it.
And we saw them play.
And we saw him as a player. Tony, any shout outs to grown-ups?
Only the biggest shout out is to my wife, who got weed on tonight by Baby Duncan when she was getting him out the bath. So there's a massive shout out to her for putting up with me sitting in this office day in, day out. Massive shout out there.
Well done, Anna. Massive shout out to you. Sam, I also want to give a little shout out to 92 Degrees Coffee as well, because that's at the top of where Sandra and our office is.
It's about 2 minutes walk away from where I am as well, the race.
Right, so we've just found the membership, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh, we're on to it. 5 coffees a day we can have, and we can have 2 if we don't want the coffee. But if we're not there, we send the other one the voucher so we can both get it. That's really cool. And the staff went, are you still excited about it today? And I went, yeah.
Oh.
Massive shout out to all. Uncle Ron says, should have a chat with the Sunday Times writer from Liverpool, Gillian Reynolds. There you go. A positive challenge, Tony. Can you think of a positive challenge for people to do this week or moving forward? A little something that people can just do.
Finish something. That's the hardest part. Finish something. Anything. Just finish it. It's so difficult nowadays. We're so used to like Instagram and 20 seconds of this and 20 seconds of that. Like Uncle Ron there was finishing his letters and posting them off. That's how you get results. Finish something. It truly is the way to do it.
Amazing. So we want to say a massive thank you for giving your time. We know how busy you are, and it's been amazing. And we've had loads of people comment, and we wish you all the success. Lee Thompson says that was a great chat. Smash the doors in and make them remember you as top advice. Thank you, Tony. People take these great little takeaways.
I think he is. Lee's a great writer, actually. So yeah.
I think he's one of your mates. Yeah. So we're going to ask you, Tony, to do you have a positive mantra or little something that you live by that we can close the show with? Do you have
I have a little note on my office at home. I have an office at home as well as here. The one at home is much nicer than this one. And on this note, I have a little thing, and Anna will confirm this, and it says, "You will not be beaten." And I wrote it when I was driving a taxi years ago in a market pen. And I stand by it. You will not be beaten. And when it's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm sitting here ploughing through notes of broadcasters or actors, it's there. You will not be beaten. Simple as that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Massive thank you to you, Stan, for boxing it all off. Thank you to Anna for boxing it all off for us.
She's done all the work.
I'm going to give you a pot of jam, Tony, to take to Anna. Okay, I'll box it off for you after.
And don't forget about you for 92 degrees as well.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
So massive thank you to everyone for listening in, and we'll see everyone next week. Good night.
Thank you.